Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praise to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray that the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past, in order to understand the events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Brethren, in these times like this, it's kind of like a juggling act. We need to expose the demons in this world, the other nations that have been on top this whole time. But we also need to, juggle that with gaining more knowledge and understanding, gaining more knowledge of who we are, where we came from, what we had. So it's got to be a juggling act between both. So we're going to get back into the ley lines right now, and how we are, definitely assuming our position right now as lay hunters. Taking a look at a couple of books today. The Lay Hunter's Manual, a guide to early tracks. Okay, Alfred Watkins. Now, I'm going to share it, and I'm going to pray that the Most High puts the right people in our nation here, on this video to get some more knowledge and understanding. This is not my forte, but I'm trying to get a lot of this information out for the people who understand what these things mean and how they correlate together. But what I do understand is that these places and these different areas were already set up. They were set up before the Gentiles were given authority. So they can't take credit for how everything in this world was set up when all they did was take over and build over the top of the holy places that were already here. Now, see, this is why you can't just stick with the Bible, because you got to expand, your horizon. You got to expand your field of knowledge and get more understanding of different things. And we're not all going to be a jack of all trades, masters of none. I'm sure that the Most High already has the perfect people already in place. They're going to understand this information, and they're going to be able to give us more knowledge and understanding. If you want to give us a little bit in the comment section, and then email me and let me know about, how you know about the ley lines, and maybe some of this information we can put out for the nation so they can get better understanding. Like I said, we're a community. This is how it works. Because this is not my expertise, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Hey, I understand some of it, but not very much. But it's better for me to get this information out for the people in our nation, in our community, that have this information, have this understanding, to be able to get their blessing. Everyone's trying to get their blessing. However the Most High has blessed them, whatever understanding they've blessed them with, it's for them to use it for the greater good of our nation. So let's go on and go into this real quick. So I'm going to take a look at the top here. It's talking about Stonehenge, okay? Seasonal alignments were made because there was no calendar. And see, they were making all these assumptions. There was no calendar. How do you make all these alignments if you don't have a calendar? If you don't know what time is what? So they can get there and just conjecture about everything, about why these people were doing these things before they even got there. Sick and tired of these people. You go, and definite information of the time of the year was wanted for farming operations. This was done by dividing the year into 8 parts and giving information which were the 8 dividing days. It is obvious that if a cross-country alignment over fixed and known points were made to the sunrise or sunset on the desired days, in future years, these would give the information to a population at different districts, whereas 2 local points only would have a limited use. It seems likely that the men who did this gradually became the men of science, of arts, of religion, of magic, and of poetry. See, they thrown that magic in there. These would be our priests, that ones that were in control of this. They were given this blessing, have this understanding. Our Levite priests were the ones that were in charge of this. Now, general proof of the antiquity of orientation, as the method is called, is strong. People of the district have been in the habit of going to see the sunrise down the avenue of Midsummer Day at Stonehenge. Okay, well, I'm going to show you guys a figure in a little bit. Okay, for generations past, churches, both in fact and by early documentary evidence, have always been oriented, okay, although the supposition that this was to sunrise and the birthday of the, okay, this is really important right here. They try to take credit again for what was already there. You know, you just got to kind of listen to the lies, hijack, just kind of dodge the garbage until you get the real truth. Okay, so this part was actually really important. Again, churches, both in fact and by early documentary evidence, have always been oriented. Yeah, our churches, our buildings have been the ones that have been oriented, okay, to these things. Oriented, although the supposition that this was to sunrise on the birthday of the saint of dedication seems to be of modern invention. Yes, you guys made this garbage up. You guys made up all this stuff. You guys threw your saints and your beliefs in it like it was always there, and it wasn't. And I think this is a big takeaway from what we're going to look at right now. Okay, so let's read that again. Churches, both in fact and by early documentary evidence, have always been oriented, although the supposition that this was to sunrise on the birthday of the saint of dedication seems to be of modern invention. Yes, recently made up. Just like we look at the Annals of Ireland by the Four Masters, and how you got, one language over here, and you got them coming in later on and throwing in their church stuff and their names. Exactly the same thing. So not only you see the lies in books, but you see the lies in the ley lines. You see the lies in the ways that they set things up, and they put their churches in and their saints in who were never there in the first place when these buildings were actually erected. So again, modern invention. Supposition that this was to sunrise on the birthday of the saint of dedication seems to be of modern invention. A lie. A lie. Just making up stuff. And we were never encouraged to read anything, so we would just take their word for it. Okay? Because being not mentioned until the 17th century, so they didn't even talk about this. This was a lie until what, the 1600s? Okay? Pagan temples were oriented. I don't know how, that's not even like it doesn't make any sense. So they give you all this gobbledygook. They give you all this garbage, kind of throw you all over the place. And then at the end, well, pagan temples were oriented. Yes, the temple, now, anybody before them was a pagan. Anyone that's not, with them in their Christianity is a pagan. So the people who could figure all these things out before were all a bunch of pagans. Just like they did with the people over there in Europe. Now they're doing it. They did the exact same thing when they got over here to the Americas. And they've done it worldwide. They're all just a bunch of pagans. Even though they were able to figure out all this complicated math and science and astronomy, they were just a bunch of pagans. Someone must have given them that information, and it wasn't just given away freely. It was given away to the children of the Most High. The children of the Most High were the ones that had this kind of an understanding. So you Christians call them pagans. The Most High calls them his sons and daughters. So who's the real pagans? The other nations. They just take their name and the things that they believe in and shove it on us. Oh, they were just a bunch of pagans. Yeah, we're going to copy everything that they did, but they're just a bunch of pagans. It says that the orientation of a church was sometimes decided by the track on which it stood is proved by the following instances in Herefordshire. Of the 40 churches with mounds closely adjoining them, okay, adjoining 10 of them orient into the mound. There are 7 instances of orientation to an adjoining church, and at least 10 additional cases of churches being oriented to the lay on which they stand. Place names as May Hill, Midsummer Hill, Easterly Camp, okay, with Easterton near it. Hill of the Rise of Day, Isle of Man, and Sun Rising Hill. All right, you guys can check those out right there. This is the picture that goes along with it. Stonehenge, and you can take a look here at all the different, how everything kind of works to scale over here, and how things all work together. But they are going to keep making, well, they can't even say that it was just all on accident anymore. Now we got to go to who was there before you. Because you pretty much have, the other nations have pretty much kept our information right there in front of our faces. They just took credit for it. Their buildings, the churches, the mounds around them, how they all work together. Remember talking about Enoch and the cords and how the Most High already set up everything the way he wanted it to? They couldn't change it, so all they did was just build on top of it. And then the more the Most High increases knowledge, the more he exposes the other nations. They've lied about everything. So to believe that they would give us all the information we needed in the Bible is ludicrous. All the people who are pushing that we're going to get this understanding just from reading one book is just the same as them, no different. We know that the Most High didn't approve only 80 books. He said himself, he let us know there's going to be other books. He sent messengers. There's going to be other books. Now this is showing you how intricate the Most High is. How he aligned everything down here. And this is just more proof of the fact that the Most High is, you can't understand him. He's so much more in depth. So anyone to think they can understand everything about the Most High reading one book, I said, is just fooling themselves. Like, this stuff is really complicated. And this is information and knowledge and understanding that they had way before the Indo-Europeans showed up. So that's why, the books of the Black Celts has opened up all this other understanding. And like I said, that was right there in October. And now look at how much more information that we have. Like, this is all the Most High. So all praise and glory goes to the Most High for doing this. And we're barely getting a chance to put all these things together. But like I said, we need to work together as a community. So I'm sure someone is going to see this and they're going to be like, oh yeah, I get it. I understand it. This, and they'll be able to give us more understanding. So that's what I expect to see. Here's the next one right here. How these things work together, okay? So more of the pics right here, more of the mound alignments and how these are all, aligned to each other. I'm gonna leave this one here for you guys to just read. And that's how I've been doing it actually over in Patreon as well. Just as I quickly get more books up and pictures up so you guys can read them over there. And then you guys can read them and then, share your information. This is how it works, I'm not going to sit here and fake it and act like I understand all this stuff. Like I said, this stuff is over my pay grade. Okay? Now we're going to jump into this book. If you're just watching the video right now, you can pause it right now and try to go see if you can find this book. You can kind of see how these all working together right here, these ley lines, okay? The Lay Hunter's Companion. Aligned ancient sites, a new study with the field guide and maps. You're going to kind of get into this a little bit, but I'm going to keep bringing some more of this information out as well. Okay, let me get this book. The southeast. St. Paul's Cathedral, Lay, okay, of London, right there. It's kind of telling you where it's at and how it works. This church alignment stretches for just under 3.25 miles across the heart of Old London. It is a slightly modified Alfred Watkins Lay, being extended to St. Clement Danes and the hold on, St. Clement Danes in the west, with the bearing altered a little. The orientations of all of the churches approximate, sometimes very closely, to the bearing of the lay, but do not coincide exactly. St. Clement, or Danes, okay, is situated at Aldwych and the and at an angle to the Strand, as if pointing out, okay, the direction of the lay. The site has been used for a church for at least the times from at least the times of the Danes, as indicated by the name when a Danish colony was established there by King Canute. Okay, now as you can see, these guys have been using these sites for their churches for a very long time. Why not, tear it down and build something else there? Because they know that's where they get their power from. No, they're going in there and praying and trying to get our people to get in there and pray as well. So it's been so important for them to get us into their religions, so that we would give them our power willingly. Okay, as you're above Saint Clement of the Danes, right there, and right here, this is an air view of part of the London Lays. Martin's is at the top right. Okay, so you can see how these are all setting up right here, how they all work together. And Most High is the one that's put these power areas, in these different places. And all they did was just come in, get handed the keys, tear down our buildings, even if they did that, and just build on top of them, build on top of the ley lines. It's not a coincidence. You start looking at all these different places. Now they all work together. Okay. Today, I'm just going to give you guys a lot of information, and you guys can read it and study it and bring back what you guys know. Just bring it together and get some more knowledge understanding together. Okay. This is believed that the site was settled by missionaries from Kent, and as early as the 6th century. So again, around 500 AD is when they start showing up, remember? Certain areas, and then they start just putting up their churches. A clear sign that it had a much earlier pagan significance. So let's read that part again. So there we go. They know again, they calling us pagans, and it was significant to our people, so therefore they made it significant to theirs. So it is believed that the site was settled by missionaries from Kent as early as the 6th century, a clear sign that it had a much earlier pagan significance. There we go. They knew, and they can't say the Hebrews, they can't say it was our people, so they just got to label them with the pagans, and it was an earlier significance. If you want to find that significance, then we need to go back to the Most High's people and what they were using it for. All these people do is just copy us. That's all that they do. It says, indeed, a Roman cemetery is known to have occupied the spot. A stone church replaced a timber one in the Middle Ages from 1189 to 1222. The church was in the care of the mysterious Knights Templars, who were responsible for the next point on the lay. There was a holy well on or near the site, but this was filled during the 19th century. They're trying to hide stuff, it seems like, okay, or build some more things over there. It will be recalled that Watkins felt wells were usually the initial points of lays, all right? So you start using those dowsing sticks, and first you would find like the well, okay, or the water. You're using those for that too, right? When they're looking for wells. So again, it will be recalled that Watkins felt wells were usually the initial points of lays. The present structure is a restoration instigated in the 1950s by the Royal Air Force of Rennes' 17th century building, itself a rebuilding of the earlier stone church. So keep putting out all these, churches, maybe going in there doing their sacred seances, who knows? But they know where the power lies, though. And they know how to find it by chasing after our old positions, our old buildings. So you don't hear them talking about where they're getting this information from. I said all this wasn't an accident. Those and all this, these actual lines and how complicated everything is, that's all from the Most High. And the Most High, the angels downloaded to Enoch, and Enoch passed that down to his posterity. It says the lay next reaches a quiet precinct called the Temple, which can be entered from Fleet Street. The Order of the Knights Templars founded in 1118. So these guys are just, going around setting up shop on all our ley lines. Okay, it's to safeguard the pilgrims. Okay, roads to the holy city. Was responsible for a number of round churches built on the model of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre at Jerusalem. All right. Of these, the Temple Church, consecrated in 1185 by Heraclius, Patriarch of Jerusalem, was and is the finest and acted as the Templars' headquarters until their dissolution, okay, in 1312. So again, they're setting up all these churches and all these buildings on our ley lines. The area was then taken over by their rivals, the Knights Hospitallers, who leased the precinct to the lawyers, and the site has remained associated with the legal profession ever since. Okay, so now it's like one of their government buildings. It says the Temple Round is one of the best examples in the country of the transitional style, connecting the Romanesque and the Gothic, and Pevsner considers it one of the earliest Gothically conceived buildings in England. This is significant in view of the fact that the French author Louis Carpentier has associated the return of the Templars from Jerusalem with the birth of Gothic architecture, which he considers to have not merely an aesthetic exercise, but a means of embodying certain arcane information. So there we go. It's talking about getting more information. Okay. So even building the buildings a certain way in order to get information or understanding. Nothing has been done on accident. So they build them a certain way, right? Embodying certain arcane information. The orientations of the church and of the lay are very close. In the south wall, there is a magnificent 13th century effigy, okay, in marble of a bishop who is believed to be the patriarch, Heraclius himself. His feet rest on a dragon, okay, which it will be remembered as a frequent symbol of earth energy, okay, connected with lay. So here we go. What is it here? His feet rest on a dragon, which will be remembered as a frequent symbol of energy, of earth energy, connected with lays. Okay, so we got that way with dragons, and earth energy connected with lays. Okay, the ghost of a man in a wig and gown has often been seen in the temple precinct, sometimes by newspaper workers on their way home. Okay. The lay continues on and passes at a slight angle down Pilgrim Street before reaching the third lay point, St. Paul's Cathedral. The site crowns Ludgate Hill, one of the two hills on which London was founded. Okay, here we go. A cathedral was first built there in 604 by Bishop Mellitus. This was destroyed in 1087 and replaced with another. So they destroy it, put up another. Destroy it, put up another. Okay, which in turn was destroyed in the Great Fire of 1666. The present building is, of course, Wren's masterpiece. Below all the Christian foundations, and to the north, okay, or to the end of them, various Roman remains have been unearthed. It is thought that a temple of Diana stood on the site. Like I said, all these people, all these different pagans coming in and building their own buildings to their own gods. Okay? And there may be a parallel here with the fact that St. Paul denounced the worship of Diana at Ephesus. The dedication thus symbolizing the Christianization of a pagan site. Okay, here we go. They're always trying to, Christianize their sites and find some way to, make it seem like the pagans didn't know what they were doing. Okay. The magical Bladud, father of King Lear, is said to have crashed in an airborne vessel on the top of Ludgate Hill. As chance will have it, the lay passes directly along the north alley of the present building, which was once used as a sort of thoroughfare. The next lay point is St. Helens, Bishopsgate. The lay passes down the center of this. The original church, as far as is known, was built in the middle of the 12th century, and part of that fabric is thought to be incorporated in the south wall of the parish nave. On the parish, be incorporated in the south wall of the parish nave. The area of this earlier church is probably contained within the parameters of the present building, which was built in the 13th century, with structural additions up to the 17th century, and is part of the former nunnery, through which a passage went in ancient times. There is a tradition that a church stood on this site as far back as the 4th century. The dedication to St. Helen will be considered significant by some lay hunters, as in her pre-Christian form, Ellen, she was associated with road building. Saint Helena was the mother of the first Christian emperor Constantine. She was said to have been born in Colchester, daughter of King Cole, and the original church is supposed to have been erected in her memory by her son. The lay continues for some distance, passing over a confluence of roads in the middle of Whitechapel Hill High Street, and on it a slant down the east end of the Stepney Way, which turns at an angle to a line at St. Dunstan's. Stephanie. Okay. Let's continue a little bit more. The fifth lay point, there was probably a wooden church on the site in Saxon times. St. Dunstan rebuilt the church at the end of the 10th century, but the church is not, as it now stands, was largely rebuilt in the 15th century. There is a Saxon rood stone in the east wall. St. Dunstan himself was a noted magician before his conversion to Christianity. So you can just see, church after church after church, all these, you see, there's all this power in these certain areas. But see, we weren't supposed to ever look at Ireland, England, or any of these places. We're only supposed to look at little Israel and the so-called Middle East. When our people were building these complexes and these complex, roads and towns all over the world, we're only given one little itty-bitty area to look at. These Gentiles didn't build any of this stuff. So now you got to look at languages. You got to look at, who was in these areas before the Indo-European showed up. And that just proves to you that Most High has blessed us to be all over the world, all over the place. So as much as they want to talk about, England and that being like their mother country and everything else, with these ley lines and the fact that they didn't build any of them means that there was a much more sophisticated people there way before them. So those lands are not theirs. They're not their mother country. And if they believe it is, prove it. Prove it. All praise is to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledge to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.